Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and what we are going to talk about today is the Sony Bravia 7. Now this is Sony's mini LED TV for the year of 2024, and it's actually a very interesting position that Sony has put itself in. This particular TV, as of me making this video, is priced at about 1,73,000 rupees on Chroma. You probably could get it a little cheaper on sale offline, but here's the catch. Sony has actually changed their naming convention this year. So if you looked at Sony's naming convention last year, let's say that the Bravia 7 was, let's say, in the lines of the Sony X90J or X90K or X90L. So the 90 remained the same, but every year the alphabet that was next to the number kept changing. So 2023 models all had an L at the end. Similarly, 2022 had a K in the model name, and Sony has gone ahead and really simplified it this year because we have the Bravia 2, the Bravia 3, the Bravia 7, the Bravia 8 and the Bravia 9. So each higher number represents a better model, and it comes with a few features that the previous model does not. But out here, Sony's flagship top of the line Bravia 9 is actually a mini LED TV, very similar to the Bravia 7 that we have today. And if you want to know the difference between the two, I can do a separate video on it, or you can also go and check out Ratings video where they do a great job at explaining the differences between these two models. And the Bravia 8, which is second from the top, is an OLED model. So Sony's top of the line flagship is not an OLED TV, and we don't have a new QD OLED TV from Sony this year because the I believe it was the X95L from last year, which was the flagship QD OLED TV, and that is still available. In fact, there are a lot of TVs in the L lineup, the X80L, the X85L, that are still available in the market in India. So if you're someone that's looking for a one generation higher in terms of models but one generation older in terms of years, then yes, you can check out last year's models as well. In fact, if you want me to compare any of them, you can hit me up in the comment section below. So yeah, with that little bit of explanation of Sony's change in model numbers out of the way, let's quickly get down to the brass tacks of this TV. Now this TV, the Bravia 7, is absolutely fantastic if you're someone that's looking for a mini LED TV, a flagship LED TV to use in a room like, let's say, this one where there's a lot of natural light coming in. I have some lights on the ceiling as well, and some of it does reflect on this TV, right? I have another lamp on the side, so there are times when there'll be a lot of reflections on the TV, or the TV will be in a bright room and you can't control the natural lighting, and that's the case where you would want to go in for a mini LED TV. And this TV, according to Ratings' testing, can hit almost just shy of 2000 nits of brightness in a 10% window, which is great if you're going to consume HDR content. And even when you consume SDR content, this TV can get really bright. But the advantage is that if you go for a mini LED TV, you can consume content in a well lit room without having to miss out on the details in low lit conditions or in scenes which are in the dark. But when you turn the lights down, the problem of some mini LED TVs is that they have blooming around the subtitles if you have, let's say, a night sky and some subtitles at the bottom. But this TV actually does a great job of handling that. The blooming is at a very small amount. It's very minimal. It's almost, you can excuse the amount of blooming that's there because you will only notice it when you know what to look for. So from that perspective, it's absolutely a brilliant TV. But there's one thing I want to highlight before we get into the picture performance, and that's the remote control. I mean, traditionally, while this is an LG TV remote control, Sony also gave you a very traditional remote control with numbers, and it had a lot of functionality to it. Now, whether you appreciated that or not is something that's very personal, but Sony has now gone with a very minimalistic remote. I mean, just look at this remote control. It just has the directional buttons, back, home, the volume up, the channel controls, mute, a button to bring out the voice assistant, playback controls, which I am very happy for, because while this older LG remote has the playback controls, the newer LG TV remotes do not have playback controls, which is a bit of a bummer. So this one does have a play pause button, and then of course you have hotkeys for Sony's own Picture Core, Bravia Picture Core. Netflix, Disney Plus, Hotstar, Prime Video, YouTube, and Sony Live. It's a great minimalistic remote control, and I use an Apple TV 4K box for consuming content, and I really like this minimalistic remote control. So I kind of appreciate the minimal design, but I also understand why someone would go for a traditional bigger remote control with, a lot more functionality if you're someone that's a little more old school. Now, when it comes to connectivity options, you get the standard slew of a lot of connectivity options on this TV. However, you still get 4 HDMI ports, of which only 2 are HDMI 2.1 ports. It's 2024. 2024 is almost coming to an end, and I really hope Sony can bring 4 HDMI 2.1 ports to its next generation of TVs. Having said that, if you're someone that's going to buy a soundbar, there are a lot of soundbars even from Sony that come with HDMI 2.1 pass-through. So even if you are going to use one of the two ports, which is an eARC port for a soundbar, and your soundbar has HDMI 2.1 pass-through, then you're kind of compensating for that one port. And if it has more than one port of HDMI 2.1 pass-through, then you are getting those added ports as well. But I still wish Sony gave all 4 HDMI 2.1 ports with this TV. Now, when you look at the design of the TV, it's actually very good. It has 2 feet on which it stands, very sturdy. The feet can be flush with your tabletop mount, or you can elevate the TV slightly so that you can place a soundbar or let's say your set-top box or something below the TV, so you can access it quite easily. Or you can also, of course, wall mount this TV. And the back has this really nice kind of a textured design. There is some space for cable management. So it's overall a very, very clean design TV. It just looks very, very premium, whether you put it on a tabletop or on your wall. Now let's get into the meat of the matter, which is the picture performance of this TV. Now, like most TVs that you would have seen over the past few years, you do get a Netflix calibrated mode and of course a calibrated mode for Prime Video, which is there on this TV as well. And you can switch that on if you are going to consume content from Netflix or Prime Video and just forget about it. Me, on the other hand, I actually preferred to switch this off, and I'm actually going to tell you some settings that I used which gave me a much better content consumption experience on this TV. So let's start with Dolby Vision content. It's available on both Netflix and Prime Videos. And on Prime Video, for example, you have this show like Fallout, right? Now, when the protagonist is leaving the vault for the first time, when the vault door opens, the sun is coming right in on her, and you can actually make out all the details despite the display being so bright. That's the testament for a great HDR TV with high peak brightnesses, that you can still see the details and it doesn't look burnt out. However, there are also sequences in HDR movies where things are really, really dark and you are actually trying to, look for all the details, and they do look a little crushed. Now, when I consumed content in Dolby Vision on this TV, I kept it on Dolby Vision Bright. You do have Dolby Vision Bright, Dolby Vision Dark as the options, but I kept it on Dolby Vision Bright. But the most important thing was, when you go into the settings, you have this HDR tone mapping. It's gradient preferred and brightness preferred. Now, I stuck to the brightness preferred option because out here in those dark sequences where you want it to be just that much more brighter without the blacks looking gray, that's exactly what this does. And it is an incredible improvement, especially if you're someone that's seen that episode in House of the Dragons where everything is really, really dark and you really have to strain your eyes to see it. It was actually very clear on this TV. Any content you will watch in Dolby Vision or HDR, by keeping the HDR tone mapping to brightness preferred, actually elevates the experience of consuming that content. You should also keep the peak brightness at high, so that if you have like I was saying, the protagonist walking out of the vault in Fallout on Prime Video, you actually do get that punchy experience, especially if you're going to consume content in a dark room. It blinds you just like it would blind her. The experience is absolutely brilliant. One of the things that you must do when you switch on this TV for the first time is actually switch off any energy saving modes that are there. Currently, you are probably seeing the steps of how I switched off the energy savings on this TV. And what that does is it allows the TV to actually get that bright and use all the features that the TV has, because when energy saving is on, it actually kind of tries to dim down the display, to conserve power. But I would highly recommend, if you want to enjoy this TV, since you've spent so much money on it, you can switch off energy saving. Now, when it comes to SDR content, I consumed a lot of content in SDR, be it Mission Impossible, Spider-Man, Young Sheldon. And for all of these pieces of content, I can tell you that you should keep the picture mode in either standard or cinema. Even in SDR, according to ratings, this TV crosses the 1500 nits barrier when it comes to the brightness. So you are getting a fantastic picture output. A few years ago when I reviewed TVs, if you switched from standard to cinema, the content kind of got slightly dimmer in some cases, but that's not the case out here. So let's say if you're watching a movie like Mission Impossible or even Spider-Man Homecoming, right? When you put it on the cinema mode, you actually get less blue color. It has a slightly warmer tone to it and not a cool tone to it, which looks more natural for movies. But when you watch a show like, let's say, Young Sheldon, then I would say keep it on standard, because that's how, TV shows were meant to be watched, and that's how their color mastering is done. So yes, when we're talking about movies, keep it on cinema, and you can make out that the color accuracy is actually very, very good. You have Tom Cruise whizzing on his bike in Mission Impossible out here. The skin tones look natural, the colors of the clothes and the environments look very natural and good, and it's overall a great experience. I would also recommend that you switch off any form of motion smoothing on the TV so that you get a much more natural experience when consuming content, unless you like that artificial smoothing, something that I don't. Again, coming back to Young Sheldon, which is a TV show, it is a great experience on standard. Switch off motion smoothing and you should have a great output as well. The colors definitely pop on this TV. They aren't absolutely vibrant. For that, you would need to put it into vivid, but that just makes it too vibrant. Like the cinema preset makes colors look really, really nice. Now let's talk about gaming, which is another important aspect for a lot of you when purchasing a TV like this one. And this TV is absolutely sublime when it comes to gaming. You connect your PS5 console and you don't need to go into the settings to actually calibrate the brightness anymore. It just auto calibrates. Unlike older Sony TVs where you actually had to go and change the HDMI signal to be able to get 4K at 120 Hz active on the HDMI 2.1 port, that's not the case anymore out here. It automatically happens as soon as you connect your console. It's even recognized. So that's great. It's a very plug and play setup. Now we played a game like Dirt 5, which is an HGIG game, which means that, if you have the bright sun streaming in, it kind of looks natural like it should without burning. So in older TV, sometimes when you calibrated your TV with the PS5 brightness settings, the console and the TV would agree that the peak brightness is a lot higher than it actually should be, which means that when you played a game like Dirt 5, it actually thought that the TV could hit that brightness level when it really couldn't, and hence content looked very burnt out and you had to actually kind of reduce the brightness to make the content look good. That's why I feel Dirt 5 is a great test when you get a new TV to check out about the brightness capabilities of the TV. Nonetheless, on this TV, the game ran absolutely flawlessly. Even a game like Spider-Man 2, where you have Miles Morales' black suit with the red webbing on it, and Spider-Man's blue and red iconic suit with the black webbing on it, it all just looks detailed. The environments look lush, they look colorful. It's just like a Spider-Man comic that's just popped onto your TV. The experience is great, especially in HDR, where the game just looks absolutely sublime. Even Ratchet and Clank, which looks like a Pixar animated movie on this game, was a treat to play. Astrobot, which is a new game, a relatively new game launched this year, and you have some of these levels which are designed around the iconic PlayStation symbols. So the one I used here was the green level for the triangle symbol, and it was just really, really punchy. The greens weren't oversaturated, which is what I have experienced on some other TVs, but out here they looked very natural and very good, which is a great testament for this TV. Even racing games like Gran Turismo looked absolutely great with, the light streaming in, and it actually gave you the feeling that you were driving on a track in the day. Moving over to the Xbox side of things, I played Doom Eternal, which is at 120 FPS locked, which this TV does support. And before we get into the game, I highly recommend that you do calibrate the TV with the HDR settings on the console to get that perfect experience. Like Doom Eternal, it just looks flawless on this TV. Like the glory kills, and of course when the enemies start flashing, the flashing just pops out, and that's just a testament to how good HDR can look. Even a game like Gears 5, right? Like the sequence that I always show is you coming from a dark area into the open area where you are going to fight, and the dark area where it starts out, actually you can miss some details on some older TVs, but out here that actually looked pretty good. And the overall experience of gaming on this TV is absolutely fantastic. Even the audio output is fairly good. You wouldn't need a soundbar if you are using this TV in your bedroom. It gets loud, it gets thumpy. You do miss the bass in certain experiences, but not by a lot, especially because the dialogues and the vocals are very clear, which in my opinion is something that's important, especially if you have family in the house and you're watching content at lower volumes. The speaker output of this TV is actually very good to give you dialogue clarity. It's running on the standard Google UI, which we've seen in the past So no complaints out here. It's a Google TV UI. You will get your own mileage from it. It has some great apps out there. You can sideload some apps. You can even play content via the USB port on a pen drive thanks to VLC player. So you get the Android feeling on your TV, so to speak. So should you buy this TV? The short answer is absolutely yes, because it is a fantastic flagship TV, but it is also quite expensive, and I am going to tell you a few price points where this plays at. So the Sony Bravia 7, as of me recording this video, on Chroma's online website is priced at 1,74,000. It's fairly premium. It's a very premium TV. LG's flagship OLED TV, which is the LG C4, is priced at 1,40,000 rupees on Chroma's website as of me making this video. The LG G4, which is the most premium LG OLED you can buy from 2024, is priced at 1,85,000 rupees, a mere 10,000 rupees more than the Bravia 7. And remember, the Bravia 7 is still not Sony's top of the line flagship. That's the Bravia 9. So if you are on a tighter budget and you want an OLED because you can control the lighting in the room, you can consider the C4 because it's a great TV with LG's legacy, including 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. And it does have this really cool gaming UI for those of you that want a TV primarily for gaming. On the Samsung front, the Samsung Q90D, which is a QLED TV, is priced at about 1,45,000 rupees on Flipkart. But Samsung's flagship, which is the S95D, which is an OLED TV, is priced more than the Bravia 7 at 1,91,000 rupees on Amazon. So the price gamut does have quite a bit of difference, and when the price difference hits about 30 to 35,000 rupees, I always say keep in mind that if you want to upgrade to a soundbar, the 35,000 rupee price point is a sweet spot for you to get a great soundbar that can enhance your movie watching experience. So yes, if you are on a tighter budget, which is less than 1.5 lakh rupees, you can consider some of Sony's flagship TVs from last year because they are still great even today. But the Bravia 7 is actually a brilliant TV if you want a mini LED TV. You do not want to get on the OLED bandwagon, and you are actually looking for a TV that can get really, really bright and want to consume content in a well-lit room. Remember, OLEDs still have the upper hand in a pitch dark room, but the way this TV handles its blooming, handles its dimming zones is absolutely sublime to give you one of the best experiences even in a dark room. Even if you can put on a little bit of light in your room, the Bravia 7 can be a great cinematic experience when the lights go down. So there you have it, guys. That was my review of the Bravia 7. As always, you can let me know what you thought of this video in the comment section below. If you have any questions, you can let me know and I will do my best to answer them. For now, this is me, Samir, signing off. I will catch you in another video. It's goodbye for now.